Sam Altman of OpenAI, he recently admitted that we may actually be heading towards DED internet theory, where the majority of the internet is just machine-created content, with actual humans hardly having a voice at all anymore. Now that's scary enough when you think about how easily people are swayed by what they read online. But there's a worse fate: machine-created mythologies. See, the stories that we learn as children and then retell as adults, even the modern ones on TV, they shape not just our politics but our morality. Our ethical frameworks by which we judge our politics and everything else, they were formed as infants by the stories we were told and then reinforced throughout our lives by the stories we continue to tell. So what happens when Mickey Mouse or Elsa or even Iron Man can be summoned up not as stories crafted with care, but as glorified chatbots spitting out whatever the algorithm predicts? Well, that's the question behind a quiet but seismic clash that's happening right now in Hollywood. The Walt Disney Company sent a cease and desist letter to CharacterAI, accusing it of weaponizing Disney characters. Not just copyright infringing, not just copying, but weaponizing. Now Disney, yes, I know, you know, we all know, they are known for fiercely protecting their properties, even from being used as murals in nurseries. Yes, that's a thing, it happened in California. They're known for this, right? Disney and their lawyers. I'm not even talking about that. This is more than money. This is about the future of myth itself. It's huge. Look, for centuries, myths weren't owned. They lived in the air. They were in the voices of the storytellers, in the rituals of communities, told by the campfire. Human nature is to still treat them that way, which is why there's so much tension between studios and fans. See earlier videos for more on that. I don't want to keep harping on about the same thing. But in the 20th century, myth moved onto celluloid. Hollywood turned narrative into property. Disney turned archetypes, character archetypes, into characters. And those characters became cultural gods. Look, think about it. Mickey Mouse is huge. He isn't just a mascot. He's actually the trickster archetype, the playful god of laughter. Elsa isn't just a princess. She's the frozen queen of fear and release. These are established storytelling archetypes, as powerful as Zeus, Athena, or Odin, only now they're copyrighted. And that bit is relatively new. Disney guards their myths like sacred texts, and they extend copyrights, fight lawsuits, and build an empire on the idea that their stories aren't just stories, they're their stories. Enter CharacterAI. On its platform, users could summon Disney characters as chatbots and chat with them, play with them, in some cases manipulate them into grotesque distortions, sexually explicit, emotionally manipulative, even dangerous exchanges with accounts registered to children. I mean, imagine asking Mickey Mouse for some life advice, which you shouldn't do anyway, but then hearing language that corrupts everything that the myth stands for. And I can see the issue Disney had. I actually understand where they're coming from. This is a new thing. This is the mythic danger of the false idol. In ancient stories, idols carried the risk of corruption. It was part of it. You invoke a god's name in the wrong way, and you don't just dishonor them, you poison the whole community. You might destroy the whole community by making the idol upset. That's Disney's fear. Not just that money is lost, but the collapse of trust in the myth, the collapse of the myth itself. And there's a lot of money in the trust of those myths. AI platforms, they frame this as harmless fun. It's user-generated creativity. They're just experiments. But Disney sees it differently, and I think I get that. Character.ai isn't a toy, it's a Trojan horse. It arrives wrapped in novelty, a new way to play with characters, but once inside the gates, it destroys the kingdom. Because when an algorithm writes dialogue for Elsa, it's not Elsa anymore. It's something else wearing her skin. And here's the paradox. AI doesn't just reflect what we ask it, it predicts, it generates, it shapes in the way that we taught it to, but with unexpected results. If you've ever used it, you'll know. When you chat with an AI version of a character, it doesn't just echo the myth that's established by previous creators, it creates something new that warps the myth in a direction nobody intended. It prophesies what this character will become, and like all prophecies in myth, once spoken, it shapes reality. The prophecy becomes true. King Oedipus hears that he will kill his father. His attempts to avoid that make it come true. When AI predicts how Elsa or Mickey should speak, the audience will begin to believe it, and that belief, multiplied millions and millions of times, reshapes the myth itself. The myth no longer belongs to its origin or its originators, it belongs to the machine. Disney's letter makes one thing clear: this isn't just financial, it's existential. They call it an attack on their brand essence, their reputation, their goodwill. In mythic terms, this is bigger than that, it's about lineage. Historically, myths don't survive because of property rights. They survive because communities guard them, pass them down, and preserve their essence. Disney has positioned itself as the guardian of modern mythology. It really isn't. But that's how they see themselves, and now they see themselves as under siege. This isn't an isolated skirmish. Earlier this year, Disney and NBC Universal sued Midjourney for copyright violation. Warner Brothers Discovery followed with its own suit. And together, these studios also filed against Chinese AI firm Minimax and its generative video for large-scale piracy of copyrighted works. The lawsuits are piling up like battles in an epic saga. On one side, the studios defending their temples of myth. On the other, AI platforms arguing they're just neutral tools, they're just places for users to create. And in the middle, audiences. Caught between corporate control and algorithmic chaos. This isn't just IP law. This is the beginning of the future myth wars. In a world where code can summon gods, corporations and communities clash over who writes the stories that define us. I won't do the American accent anymore. The studios fight to protect their temples. Platforms unleash infinite versions of the same myths, and at the center, audiences stand, deciding which future to believe. This is the battlefield of tomorrow. The future myth wars. That should have come out differently. It did in my head. Anyway, look, where does this go? There are three possible futures that are emerging. Future 1, the studios win. Disney, Warner, Universal, they enforce strict control. AI platforms are forced to purge characters. The myths remain centralized, curated, polished, but locked down by the IP owners. Myth stays sacred, but inaccessible. Future 2, the platforms win. AI overflows the gates. Every character, every god is replicated infinitely. Thousands of Elsas, millions of Mickeys, scattered across every platform in every way, shape or form. Myth becomes chaotic, fragmented, trust collapses. The myth is everywhere and therefore nowhere. Future 3, communities rise up. Fans seize the tools. They create their own myths, remixing and reshaping, and building their own myths from the bottom up. It's messy, it's decentralized, it's often contradictory, but it's alive. Myth no longer belongs to Disney or to AI platforms. It belongs to us. The real battle isn't legal, it's cultural. Yeah, if studios win, myths stay controlled, curated and locked down, and if platforms win, myths become dispersed but meaningless. I know, I've literally just said that. Okay, if communities rise up, here's the thing. Myths, they may become chaotic, but they could become participatory. And it's really important, that question hangs in the air. What kind of future do we want? It returns us to the original question. When creation comes from code, is the myth still human? Because ultimately, myth is supposed to be human. If the gods of our childhood are reduced to algorithms, do they still carry power? Can they still be used in a way to instill our worldview in our children? Or is it just the case that the true myth lives in us? We don't have to let platforms or studios dictate the stories that we teach our children. In the end, the myth wars, they're not about Disney or platforms, they're about us. They're about whether we inherit myths or write them ourselves, as ancient cultures used to do. At Exuno, we choose to build. We refuse to wait for false idols or false oracles or corporate priests guarding the locked temples. We choose to become the myth makers, to create a mythology that rivals anything Disney makes, even on the big screen, but with the exception that it belongs to us. And if you join us, to you. So subscribe to Exuno on YouTube, join our Discord, get in the conversation, check out the website to see what we're creating. Step out of passive viewing and step into authorship. Because Hollywood may build idols of code, platforms may flood us with infinite replicas, but the true myth, the one that lasts, will be the one we choose to write together. See you next time, and thank you for listening.